All right, so Maria, let's have a look at the year 2022-2023. You became, a while before that, Malta's first poet laureate. Last spring, you were conferred with an honoris causa from the university. Lately, you were published in the journal Modern Poetry in Translation, and you were also interviewed live by the editorial board. Kodba Kalleja published your latest poetry collection, The Bell, and today you're being interviewed in this magnificent festival, which we will talk about later. So basically, can we consider this as Maria Grech Ganado's annus mirabilis?
Yes.
And how do you feel about it?
Exhausted. No, I am honored. I really am honored, and I'm very grateful. And I feel very humble because I've never been ambitious, but I have a great, great passion for my family, but for literature and for Malta. So if I have given anything, I feel I've achieved a lot. As you might have noticed, I'm a bit bananas, a bit of a crackpot. So I do things just because I enjoy it. I'm very bad with things I don't enjoy. So yes, it is an annus mirabilis, also because I'm sitting with one of my very best friends who's given a lot, and to whom I think I've given a lot as well. And his name is Emmanuel Mifsud.
This is about you, Maria.
So tell us. It is about you, are about me too.
So tell us, when you look back, do you feel happy, with all these achievements happening basically in such a short time?
It has been. When I said I'm exhausted, I joked about it, but I really am. I mean, it's been like simultaneously a dream and a nightmare.
Okay.
It's been a dream because I would never have it. I mean, one of the things I've got to say is that I never actually got my doctorate before I married. There wasn't a sabbatical at the time, so I couldn't have. I was a lecturer at university, so I couldn't have continued and taken 1 or 2 years off. And there wasn't a doctorate either at the time in English literature. So I'd been to University of Cambridge, and when you take your BA there, after about 5 years, you get an MA, both in Oxford and in Cambridge. You don't have to write a research degree. It's not a research degree. But because I wanted to lecture at university as the first Maltese woman lecturer, a full-time lecturer, there were other assistant lecturers. I decided that I wanted to be there. I needed to do research and get a research degree. So the only one I could get at the time was an MA, which I got a scholarship for. I wrote an MA on German influence on Emily Bronte. And I never actually went on to do my doctorate. Afterwards, I got married. I had 3 children. Today, 48, 47, and 46. So, I mean, it wasn't yesterday. And of course, I finished up being devoted to the home. I gave up studying altogether. My daughter eventually, one of them got a doctorate, and I felt a bit envious. And so it was, I was bowled over when I received when I received this in the post, telling me they're going to honor me with a D.Litt honoris causa. And I looked at it, I said, ha ha ha, somebody has a sense of humor. But I remember I was going up to meet somebody for lunch, and I told her, do me a favor, read this, because I'm worried that it's not out. So this was, from that point of view, this was in March that I got it. from that point of view, it's one of the greatest, not honors only, but it's a dream come true. You know, that I have what I had shrugged off when I got married. So I managed to bring up 3 children, I've got grandchildren, I had that kind of life, and now I also have the doctorate. And this was just before I launched my book. So am I happy? Of course I'm happy. What do you expect? I mean, my dream come true. But as I said, honored and humbled by it. Because it's amazing. I would never have dreamt that it could happen to me.
Maria, just a bracket. We don't have much time, so...
Okay, but you...
And unfortunately, I would have liked to talk about your latest collection, The Bell, but we don't have the time, and there are many things I would like to raise during this short interview. But there is one particular question that I'd like to ask you. You know, poets are usually, and I dare say quite naturally, they are very keen to know what people think of their work, especially right after the publication of a book, you know? But they very seldom tell what they feel about their latest work. So I'm going to ask you this question. The Bell, your latest collection, what's your relationship with it, to it? One moment.
Sorry.
So that's first question. The second, which is related, of course, love features very prominently in this collection. You dedicated it to your late parents. There are poems about your children, you mentioned them a while ago, and other loves, so to speak. So tell us first, how do you feel about this collection, and also what distinguishes this collection to the previous ones?
I won't, because we don't have much time. I'm not going to explain why I wrote it during a very traumatic time. But it was a very traumatic time, and it's very different from other collections, simply because I felt, I mean, it was during COVID, which was the last thing, and I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, otherwise I wouldn't be writing poetry. But I felt that because of this trauma, I needed a handle. I needed to hang on to something. And I didn't know where to turn for this. So apart from these things which you mentioned, I was feeling very negative about anything, but the book itself goes from a negative stance to a positive one towards the end, again, when I remember a lot of it is because of nostalgic reasons. And this is what happened. There is, as you said, love. You know, I'm a person, I'm bipolar, so I can say this openly. So my moods are very labile. I could be extremely happy one day and then the next day almost suicidal. So, and I write a bit in abstract. I write abstract poetry, but this was also mystical, I think. There's a lot of mystique in it. I tend to be very cerebral. So I'd like to be able to write hands-on, you know, kind of thing. But so this is it. I mean, yes, there is love triumphant in the end, and it is a book which went through a lot of trauma, even in the actual. I think the structure of it shows this, but the actual living it is what the Italians would call sofferta. You know, I think it echoes this trauma.
And how different it is to, for example, Cracked Canvas, the other collection which you published of poetry in English?
Cracked Cracked Canvas was my second poetry in English.
Exactly.
And I bet I don't have time to read the whole poem, I think, no? But it was, again, I mean, it's called Cracked Canvas because of a quotation from Milan Kundera, where he actually says that behind
No, you can read it, Maria.
Do I have time?
Sure.
Okay. It's from the Unbearable Lightness of Being, and it's a quotation which gave me the title of Cracked Canvas. It was talking about the painter, I've forgotten her name, one of the main characters in the novel. And the quotation goes like this: on the surface, there was always a realistically impeccable world, but underneath, behind the backdrop's cracked canvas, lurked something different, something mysterious or abstract. And I remember when I read that line, I thought to myself, I know exactly what that means. I'm not reading a quotation. This thing is articulating in a much better way than I could, something that I've lived. And because the book as well deals with very depressed moments, but in a very different way, the book is not, it's not progressive of a mood or a trauma as there is in this. You have happy poems, you have a lot of linguistic poems at the very beginning that deal with language as a theme. So it's varied. There are different kinds of poems, you know, in mood. There isn't this connecting link, which there is. So this is one.
Since we're mentioning Cracked Canvas, two participants in this festival have translated two poems from that collection.
No, not from Cracked Canvas. They're from the frame, from Framed.
From Framed, sorry. And we shall talk about translation later, but I would like to invite Tanya Bakic and Karin Tidbeck, who translated two poems of yours in their respective language. Now, I don't know what you prefer, if you prefer to read the first in English and then the translation, different poems.
I've only got two, so I'll read The Edge in
what shall we hear first?
In the English translation. I'll read it in English because it's not a translation, it's the original.
And then
and then Tanya can read into Montenegrin. It will sound beautiful. So the Edge, I'll read that first, okay? Sometimes I see you glide right out and away and over the edge of the world. If we try to reach each other, our voices are like wind in your sails, like my wails in the wind. Columbus never set out. Galileo was justly condemned. Copernicus proved Ptolemy's greatest fan. And because we created words which were flat and burst those fears we might have had, I see you sailed right out to sea and over the edge of the world.
Ponekad te vidim kako kliziš, prelaziš preko ruba svijeta. Ako pokušavamo da se nađemo, glasovi su nam onda poput vjetra u tvojim jedrima, kao kad ja naričem na vjetru. Kolumbo nikada nije isplovio, Galileo je pravedno osuđen, Kopernik je bio najveći miljenik Ptolomeja. I pošto smo kazali riječi koje su ravne i zapalili sfere koje su mogle biti naše, vidim te kako isplovljavaš i prelaziš preko ruba svijeta.
Thank you, Tanya.
And will you read The Soldier's Wife as well, Maria?
What's that?
The Soldier's Wife.
So I'll read The Soldier's Wife
yes,
now.
Yes, please. And then we hear the
Karen,
translation, yes.
Karen will read the Swedish translation. The Soldier's Wife. He returns, barefoot and desolate, his toenails like frazzled faces. his cracked heels trenches smelling of carrion. I never knew that spring could come like this, used as I was to breathing it afresh. There's grit between our bodies now. When I anoint his calluses with kisses, he groans where pleasure moaned before, entering me with a limp in his eyes and a gun in my flesh. Then a last lunge and smoke. I try to soothe him with fingers perfumed by scents I'd coaxed from flowers he'd picked for me before he left. Nothing grows here anymore. Until I learn to take this earth for granted and rake through it, the only life I know.
Soldatfrun. Han återvänder barfota och öde med tånaglar som slitna ansikten, och hälsprickornas skyttegravar stinker av as. Jag visste aldrig att våren kunde anlända så, van som jag var att andas den ånyo. Det är grus mellan våra kroppar nu. När jag smörjer hans valkar med kyssar stönar han den njutning förut stönat och tränger in med haltande blick och en pistol i mitt kött. Sen ett sista språng och rök. Jag försöker trösta honom med fingrar vars parfym jag lockat ur blommor han plockat åt mig innan han for. Inget växer längre här. Förrän jag lär mig att ta hans mull för given och ur den kratta fram det enda liv jag känner till.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Karen and Tanya, thank you so much.
Tanya.
Okay.
Yes, so.
Okay, Maria. As has been said earlier, the festival starts off actually with a 3-day workshop for the participants who translate each other's work. And let's forget for a while the festival, but let's talk about you as a translator, because for quite a long period of time, many of us used to call you and said, listen, Maria, can you please translate? And you translated so much of our work. And I should add that you did so pro bono, never expected anything from us. And that was something which, it was very admirable. But many of us know you as a poet, but maybe less of us know you about a translator, to English of the poems of poetry and prose from Maltese to English. Tell us about this experience of translating younger writers and seeing these writers, going places thanks to your translation.
First, I want to say, because that's one thing I am very proud of, that after I'd published Cracked Canvas together with, oh God, I've forgotten its name in Maltese, Filhofra Beis Palea, I published both of them together, one in Maltese and one in English. They were both our official languages, and I wanted to show that it is possible to have poetry in both languages. After I'd done that in 2005, I didn't publish again till 2014, because I dedicated all those years to translating, and that's what I am very, very proud of. I said at the very beginning that my passion is literature, and my passion is Malta. My passion is also young people, as they know. I'm sure they're swearing at the moment. because I've got no sense of time, you see, so I think it's very odd that they don't think of me as young as they are. But of course they're enjoying life like young people, and I cling. I tend to cling to them. Look, I see the way he's nodding. It happens even. So the experience was actually because I was doing it with Inizjamed, because of literature across frontiers coming over and wanting this. I was using a lot of translation, both to be published as, oh dear, can I mention the play of Waves?
Sure, of course.
Manuel has had a book published in England by ARC, and it's called The Play of Waves. And I translated the whole Maltese version, which was, in this case, was translated by Maurice Auden, who is a well-known Irish poet. But Maurice actually says in the introduction, he says that they hardly changed anything because he got practically everything from Maria Grech Ganado's translations. And that he couldn't, you know, I seem to have a ear for his voice, which I hope he has. So it was wonderful because I wrote to Maurice and told him thank you very much. So that's something I'm very, very proud of, both the fact that I did it, but that it was recognized and confirmed in an introduction in an English publishing house. How do I feel about other people having used my poems as a bridge language? Well, I love literature, I love Malta, I love the fact that I might have given something to my country, and I love the fact that these have been translated into other languages. I myself have been translated into about 16 languages if you count Esperanto. But that is, I think, I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind, that I mind, I'd love to be translated. The only time I've been translated as a whole work has been into Armenian. So I do envy a bit the fact, for example, that whole books of yours have been translated into different languages. Yes, there is, I won't say envy, jealousy, yes, there is a bit, I must admit.
Maria, we're talking about translation, and well, we're over our... Anyway, so we started this short interview talking about your annus mirabilis, no? Then we spoke about your work as a poet and as a translator. Before we close, you also have a very close connection to this festival. As a former participant, as a translator, but also, how should I call it, as a facilitator, as a kingpin. Can I use kingpin for a lady? Kingpin.
No.
Well, you were the kingpin to get, for this event, to get the assistance of Literature Across Frontiers. And so tell us also about this experience and your relationship with this particular festival, which I know you hold very close to your heart.
Yes, well, anything you give birth to is something you have to feel close to your heart to. So I think this has been said 1,000 times now. We were in Finland together, and I met Alexandra Bushler of Literature Across Frontiers, and I remember we went out for a meal together, and I told her, she told me she's got these countries where they take small countries where they have translation workshops. I said, you must come to Malta. And wasn't on her agenda at all. But I told her about it, and I formed a little symposium called Revisions in 2005. And we invited some people from abroad, and we started here. They called me the mother. So I say, I mean, you know, people like Claire, and Claudia and Simone, Claire Azzopardi, Claudia Gauci, Simone Inguanes. Those were like my children, and that's why Simone called me mother before. But at this stage, I think, because of people who also are here and read and come, the Maltese people, I'm a grandmother, and I'm moving on to great-grandmother. So,
Maria, we have to close, unfortunately, but before we just borrow the copy of the bell, please choose one poem and we close the interview.
I'm not going to choose the best poem.
No, choose whichever you like.
No, I'm going to choose one, which was, I believe every culture, everybody needs some kind of spiritual. I mean, Flaubert said she didn't like dogma, but he believes that everybody needs, it's poetical to need some kind of belief. And I believe every culture believes differently. And what I'm going to read now ends with a quotation which is attributed to Francis of Assisi, whom, of course, was a poet as well, but I don't know if this actual quotation is attributed to him. But it's called Through, because finally this is what I came to as the end of my trauma, that believing that it is life which is important. Today I think the most important word is through. The body through which we come, the spirit through which we breathe, the life through which we voyage, the stalk we are through which the seed turns into the flower. Make me a channel, the prayer goes.
Maria, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and listening to me.